Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm hanging out with Asa from Roll For Mischief. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't know if anyone's going to show up today because I hear there's this other thing going on that people might be watching. But whatever. Worst case scenario is you, and Shallender will be talking some nerdy stuff. Looks like there's a
That's
couple other
perfect.
people there.
Yeah, I've had some of my people that watch my stream say they're going to try to show up if they can. But again, inauguration. Let's see what happens with the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
shout out to my UK crowd. You don't have to watch our new president be put into office, so come watch this instead.
but yeah, but I bet there's probably like a group like the way we watch like the royal family stuff. Like we'll
hmm
watch that stuff.
Right? They're like, we're going to watch this like it's a reality show because we are completely disconnected from the actual politics of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, in all fairness, it feels kind of like that nowadays anyway. Uh, so,
Yeah.
so what have you been up to? And I guess, like, real quick, who are you? And quick elevator pitch of what it is you do. So,
All
if people
right.
are not familiar with you,
Well, hello, I'm Asa. I am with Roll for Mischief, and we are Dungeons and Dragons live stream channel that plays on Twitch on Tuesdays, noon Pacific time. So adjust to your time zone. Half of our group is here in the Northwest. The other half is out of the UK. So we have, a vast, not vast, but like two very different um, time zones. Fuck, I don't even know.
time zones works.
Time zones works, man. And if anybody's gonna drop the F bomb, it's gonna be me. So sorry about that. I just get into the swearing when I forget what I'm saying. So elevator pitch went terribly wrong.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
we have been running a very long campaign that is based on a lot of or focusing on a lot of political issues as well as just like grand scale god killing wildness. And we're at level 18 now. We're about ready to finish up this adventure, level up to 19, and then move into the end game. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And the
What level did
best
you
time
start at?
we started at level 1.
This is pretty. That's pretty rewarding, isn't it? Going all the way to the end.
Oh man, absolutely. And the group that I play with now, it is not the group I started with. We had 4 players to begin with. We
Uh,
still have 4 players. 3 of them are different people. So I am the only holdover from our very beginning stream.
are you the GM?
We do a rotating GM. That's our kind of our big pitch, I guess. Every level we rotate a different dungeon master.
Okay.
So I'm one of 3 who's GMing. Yeah,
So does that mean nobody knows where the story's going?
it does make keeping continuity a little bit more of a challenge, but I guess I'm the historian because I've been around the longest, and I'm the one who actually pitched the premise of this game
Uh,
and was heavily involved in the world development before we even started streaming. We put so much work into this game in the year leading up to when we actually started streaming. It is wild when I think back and go, I've never planned that much for D&D ever.
Yeah. So when you guys originally started, it was you and a couple other like Nerdarchy staff writers, right?
Absolutely.
Volunteers. Yeah.
I
That's
find
super
myself
cool.
telling this story a lot more recently. So I cut my teeth with Nerdarchy. I was writing for your guys' website, what, 4 years ago? And and I got into connection with a couple of other writers, and we were like, hey, let's start a live stream. And we pulled in a buddy of mine because he did music, and I wanted to have our own music available to us because the worst copyright thing that I can think of is music.
Not because he's your friend or whatever. We needed
Absolutely no,
music.
him being my friend is not important at all. I mean, we may not even be friends anymore. No, he's my best friend. We're still good friends. No, there was that. Actually, the music was the main pull because I was like, he's probably not going to want to commit himself to a live stream. So maybe he'll just do the music. Maybe he'll do the music and play. He did both for a long time and then took up a whole bunch of the tech stuff and was like, all right, guys, I've got a job that wants me to work that conflicts with your streaming times. Like, sorry, but I gotta bow out. And so I took on a lot of the tech stuff, and I'm not good at it.
I
So,
understand. I feel your pain.
you know,
I've
um,
I've definitely been there myself. So
yeah,
you guys are getting ready. So that game will be wrapping up and finishing. What are you playing in that game?
I am a monk. I'm an elven monk, Way of the Shadows, or whatever the shadowy one is.
Way of the Shadows, yeah, the ninja
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Which, man, that character has gone from like monk, Way of the Four Elements to monk, druid, cross class to monk, straight up Way of the Shadows.
That's quite
And
the evolution.
yeah, I did a like. Luckily, the party was good at that. I was like, I'm just gonna scrap the whole thing and start over again, and I'm gonna have an in-game reason why. And they're like, cool, we're all right with that.
Yeah.
And the
Way of the
in-game reason
Four.
why is my character is kind of possessed by a Feylord. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Way of the Four Elements is like one of the subclasses that sounds cool until you play it. And then you're like,
yeah,
oh, I'm out of key points. I did one thing.
right. Yeah, there was a while there that I was bitching about every single ability. I was like, man, these abilities would be so much better if they did something on failed saving throws.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, probably 4 levels of playing that I was like, oh, they do. Yeah, you get half damage on a failed save or on a successful saving throw. I'm an idiot. Uh,
Yeah. Gosh darn it. Know what your character does. No, my brother, so we're playing in a game and it's like, I call it like David and Friends game, but it's just like a home game and it's my wife, my son, my nephew, and one of his friends. And he started off playing a Turtle Way of the Four Elements monkey. He's like, this sounds cool. And then
mhm.
Ted told him that the Way of the Four Elements sucks. And so he's like, can I change my character? I'm like, if you want to. Um,
To answer the question in chat, yes, when I'm DMing, my character is an NPC. Sometimes he's an NPC with the party. Typically, I just have him go do something else because I can't stand running a GM character.
yeah. You're missing out on the opportunity to give yourself all those sweet magic items.
It's true. There there was a time where so I'm terrible about giving out loot, especially magic items. And
uh,
to make up for that, one of our DMs was like, here's magic items for everyone.
mm,
And I was kind of like, is this an excuse to give yourself magic items? But it worked out because I still have one of those magic items and it's gone kind of gone through an evolution with my character that's very indicative to what my character has done. It was a staff of healing. At some point, it broke in half, and then I recrafted them into like swords. So I have wooden swords that are made up of the staff of healing, and to kind of emphasize the fact that they once were healing weapons, they are the leech life swords now. So it does some healing, but it also does some hurting.
yeah, yeah, and it only heals you.
Hmm.
They still heal for me.
Right? 10 temporary hit points, on a crit.
Yeah,
That's
it's what my god would have wanted.
exactly.
Yeah, how are you enjoying Way of the Shadow?
I like it. It is a lot simpler. I like a character that has a lot of options, and Way of the Shadow is kind of a one-trick pony.
Teleport, bam, punch him in the back of the head.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I had a rogue, sneak attack bonus on top of that, which I was just thinking about that yesterday,
Yeah.
uh, I could be a damage powerhouse. As it is, I think the most damage I do is when I actually can pull off the green flame blade, which I
Oh
can never
yeah.
do because we're only ever fighting one enemy at a time.
Yeah. So it doesn't. It's not quite as effective.
Well, so the shitty thing about Green Flame Blade is that you have to leap the secondary damage to something. You can't
Huh.
just opt to not do it. And so I would have to hit myself or one of my party members with it if I'm only fighting one creature. And I mean, dealing 3d8 damage to myself with the trigger of dealing 3d8 damage to the opponent as well, like that doesn't seem worth it because I'm really squishy.
Yeah. So yeah. Also, like the problem with those cantrips, like they seem really cool, except for if you play anything that gets more than one attack, then it's like, oh, really? I'm just trading that unless you can figure out a way to get more attacks.
Yeah, I definitely had a question about that the other in yesterday's stream. I was like, wait, if I cast Green Flame Blade, do I lose my second attack?
You do
Okay.
because you're casting a cantrip, it takes an action.
Yeah. So
So
that's what I thought. Now the only thing that gave me pause was it did say that the when you make an attack that rolls a d20, then you cast this cantrip. And I was like, okay, so do I get both of them? But it's like, no, you don't.
no,
Eh.
yeah, the language is kind of weird like that. It's like very specific, and it seems like
Yeah.
it'd be cool. So, like, I guess like the cooler use with that would be like, I guess if you're maybe you got some sorcerer levels and you got some, you just quicken it and use it as a bonus action, and then
Mm.
you're a fighter with levels. But again, like then you're like you won't have enough sorcery points to pull it off very often anyway, so it loses some of the coolness.
Yeah. Green Flame Blade is a spell that on paper looks really cool, but in practicality, it's a trap. It's just gonna be more headache to get it to pull off that extra damage than to just like, you know, use a key
Although,
point to do two extra bonus attacks or two extra attacks with your bonus action and then just do four attacks.
but I mean, Shadow Monk gets some cool abilities that are fun. Like your character is basically invisible all the time now if you have dim light or darkness.
Oh yeah, that has
Uh,
been the main thing I can do. My character is invisible constantly.
and then you can get a reaction attack. Yeah, actually it's one of the better ones because like aside from its shadow arts abilities, all the other abilities don't require key points and they're all pretty good. So,
Yeah.
and then even the ones that do require key points are really good. Like Pass Without Trace is like you might as well be invisible.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it
so you
lasts a
are
while.
invisible. You have massive bonuses to your stealth rolls. You can teleport from shadow to shadow. Like
Yeah.
the character is you never need to be seen. You could be an infiltration master. And that's really cool. It's been very helpful in a few situations. One particularly, I remember we were sneaking through a mansion trying to rescue these tiefling slaves, and I was just like, nope, I'm invisible. I'm walking through. No one even knows I'm there. And that was very helpful then. Actually, it was almost a problem how stealthy I was because I would sneak up on the NPCs that we were trying to rescue and like freak them out.
Yeah. Surprise, sucker! You get ready to play in another game with Nerdarchist Ted.
Yeah, so I have been part of, well, we now have a name, the Chaos Crew.
Yeah.
Uh, me, uh, Megan, who also, I don't know if Megan still writes for.
Yeah. They do. And
Mhm.
Megan is Robin now.
Megan is Robin. Okay, I was not sure on that one, but
Yeah.
okay.
Um, well, they were still using their name a little bit as well, which is actually their birth name, but they go
Mhm.
by Robin now, and they're
Okay.
switching over everything to Robin.
Oh, good.
Um,
Well, I'm glad I know that now, so I can move forward from here and call call them Robin. Robin. Um, yeah. So Robin is in that. Who wrote with you, writes for you guys still. Um, and then V Muse with the crafting muse, and Jake. I don't remember his last name with mini terrain domain. So that group, and then Fraginator, who's just awesome.
Dragonator.
Um, yeah, so like we've been doing this. That's game for I think going on 2 years,
A while.
and yeah, it's a monthly game. We do 12 episodes in a season. And we were running through pre-made material with one sponsor, and then recently Ted got us sponsored by Easy Roller Dice, and because this has become a stream where now I'm like shouting out everyone.
Yeah.
Um, This is my easy roller dice tray, and it's got a little. I can't turn it all the way up because all my dice are in there, and they're gonna
Oh yeah,
spill.
yeah. I can see the Cthulhu peeking out
Yeah,
though.
and so that's been great. We're starting a new season on the 29th, which is Friday. What time is that? That's 8 o'clock Eastern, right? Um,
Yes.
so yeah, that's going to be. I'm excited for that. I'm always excited to play with that group. They're a lot of fun, and they're all great people. And I've got another collab that I'm doing. I just started on Monday. I'm collabing with Table Troop and oh gosh, I forgot the Stream of Many Things. And a we're running Horde of the Dragon Queen, but we are all level 20 characters.
As One Punch Man.
Yeah, yeah, the One Punch Man game. So
So that's
that's
the premise. You're as 20th level, you can one shot everything.
exactly which we have so far been doing. I think our barbarian actually had to take 4 attacks to kill a monster the other day, and it's because 2 of them he missed.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty great. So there's in Horde of the Dragon Queen, there's like the Dragonborn character. I don't know who's played it, so I this is the first time I've gone through it. There's like a Dragonborn champion that challenges a player or something along those lines. I remember reading about it when I read the adventure 2 years ago. Um, and he like shows up and he's like, I challenge one of you. The barbarian's like, all right, let's do this. He hands um the cleric 100 gold as like a bet. He's like puts 100 gold in his hand and he's like, 4 hits or less. Walks up, hit, hit, and the cleric cast Revivify on the Dragonborn, so it pops back up again. Whoosh, whoosh. That was 4 hits, and then like we're like, well, you lost the bet, man. You didn't do it in 4 hits or less.
It was 100. So he spent 300 on the gem to win the
Mhm.
100.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. He definitely like he's put all of his money into resurrection gems because he's just bringing everyone back to life.
Mhm.
He's the domain of death, so he's like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna like resurrect people constantly. It's gonna be fun. And then I
Well,
think he also has like the animate the dead or animate corpse spell. I'm really bad with D&D spell names, so
yeah,
don't.
it's animate dead if you're talking about making zombies and skeletons.
Yeah. So like we killed a bunch of kobolds. He popped like 2 of them up and then tried to have them carry him. Then they did not do well.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in the chat for a question from Brian Smith. I'll be
Of course.
prepping my group to jump back into our main Eberron campaign. Have done a few one shots, and PCs will be level 5, 6. How do I start ratcheting up the challenges they'll face? So Eberron is very like noir ish, right? It's just depending. I mean, you can run anything in Eberron. Just that's kind of one of the beauties of it. But I like the aspect where it's very noir, and which means it's like the players will accomplish stuff and get these wins, but they're kind of empty and hollow when they get the thing that they thought they wanted. Just because that's the way those stories are. So like I would want to play with like those kind of elements more. But the trick is to like mixing them in so they don't all they don't just get like disenfranchised to playing the game. Have you played any? Have you played in Eberron at all?
I haven't, but it is one of my favorite settings. I've definitely planned and prepped games for it.
What
I'm
is
gonna
the
have them.
draw to Eberron for you?
Man, I like the way that they weave technology and magic together. I think that's really cool.
So the Arcana punk elements.
Yeah. It definitely there Forgotten Realms does like the base fantasy really really well, but it's always been my least favorite setting because it's too I feel like it's too Tolkien-esque. I like
It's very
a
vanilla.
yeah. I like something I like my fantasy worlds to have their kicker, their thing that differentiates them. And so Eberron was the idea of like the lightning rail or whatever else, I think that's what it's called, or
Yeah.
whatever else they do that attaches practical use of magic to technology. I think that's really cool. Um, to the point of fifth level characters in Eberron, I don't have enough experience with the setting to really know how to ratchet up those challenges.
Yeah.
But recently, I feel like I'm getting enough experience with late game, like high teens to maybe 20th level games, that that's when D&D as a challenge-based system starts to break down. It's really hard to create a balance of the party at such high levels. So you have to challenge them in different ways because they're going to tear through most combats. So what else can you do to really bring the character's strengths and weaknesses to light and then bring the world scale out and make your characters affected in a way that is meaningful.
So one of the interesting things about Ebron when it dropped, it's like a super high level NPC would be like 12th level
Mm-hmm.
compared to like Forgotten Realms where there's like all these 20th level characters running around. You're like, why doesn't Elminster fix this? Somebody get Elminster on this. Why are we
Right.
bothering?
Yeah, Forgotten Realms has got a huge disparity in like your average citizen is like, oh, you've got a third level cleric just like chilling in town, casting miracles. Oh, here comes Elminster. Well, that town's never gonna look at that cleric seriously again. But like the average citizen in Forgotten Realms is not very strong. But when
No.
you pop in these massive heroes, they're world-breakingly powerful.
Yeah, well, and that's the other. So, like, that's another great thing about Ebron. Like, you can focus on elements that aren't necessarily about combat and beating down the enemy.
Hmm.
Because I mean, like, where the campaign kind of picks up, it's a cold war between these five nations. Maybe even more nations if you look at some of the, some of the other ones like Droam and like the Kani, and some of the different elves as well. So like you can have all this espionage, Cold War stuff going on, political intrigue, and when you start getting into that stuff, like CRs don't matter as much, right? The challenge
Right.
doesn't matter as much because it's like, what is the outcome, right? You can have a commoner that's just an I mean, not a commoner, but an aristocrat that doesn't have any class levels, but wields a tremendous amount of power politically, and via influence and wealth, can be the main villain. But because of the circumstances, you can't just go out and murder them, even though it'd be super easy, right?
Hmm.
Because then you, in essence, become the villain. So that it opens up a lot of different avenues to challenge your players that have nothing to do with what level they are.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Definitely finding a way to say, like, this world is a place that has political taboos and social taboos and a structure to really enforce the disciplines with that. Like, to contrast that with running Horde of the Dragon Queen with level 20 characters, like, we walked in and brazenly, openly talked about killing like absolute murder hobo, like killing the guards or killing the townsfolk, like, and all people could do was just look at us and be like, you guys are scary. But putting that into a setting with Eberron, it's like, all right, they've got like magic that they can use to really hamper down a high level character. They've got ways of like actually imprisoning or enforcing laws, even if you are 12th level, even if you are 15th level. So running back to like, Brian,
Yeah.
your campaign, like at fifth level, if you're looking at a Cold War situation, you've got to tiptoe your way around things. You can't just go do whatever you want, because if you have an affiliation with any nation, you could be the turning point that turns that Cold War into a hot war.
So there's like tons of options. We kind of like glanced over like Ted's game. What are you playing there?
Oh, yeah, I that character is mostly done, but still in the works. I am playing a but we're all playing mages. So the pitch for that game is every one of us are wizards. We're all investigating why magic is broken in the world. So one of Ted's restrictions is we can't pick one of the eight schools of magic. We have to pick something else.
Uh-huh.
And before I realized it was scrapped, I chose the naming wizard. I don't remember what that one's called. Maybe orthomancy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I am a tiefling orthomancer, and I think the premise for my character is essentially like somewhere in his service in the Hells, he came across a book of names and stole it, and then like it's like, all right, I'm out of here. So hopefully he's got demons and devils on his case trying to get this thing back, but he's been using the knowledge of names to kind of keep himself safe. So I'm excited about that. We'll see where that goes.
There's not that many. One, two, three, four. There is only five schools of magic if you get rid of the or traditions if you get rid of the schools of magic.
Yeah, well, Ted is like pretty open on just use whatever, like use third party
AD Wiki.
things. And Ornamencer, thank you, Ted. So Jake is going to be playing a beardomancer. So
Yeah.
he's using the Nerdarchy published um yeah, School of Magic, which is going to be super exciting. I think we have a Blade Singer. Not sure what else. Oh, maybe the Gravity Magic one.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's going to be cool. I'm really excited to see where that goes.
It's like if you guys were all Harry Potter, all grown up.
Right. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Ted has in store. Like there's part of me that's like, are we going to do magic school? Are we going to do like sort of a noir investigation with our magical talents?
Yeah.
Um, I have no idea. And it's really fascinating. And it's wonderful because I don't have to plan it.
Oh man, I just hope he like sticks you guys in these like physical altercations from time to
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So I've been told magic isn't going to be a major focus.
Yeah.
Or not, I'm sorry, combat isn't going to be a major focus because we don't have a well enough balance to survive a lot of combats.
Well, it'll go
But
one of two ways. You guys will like overwhelmingly dominate, or
right,
it's gonna be really rough.
yeah. But also, again, like I don't know what Ted has in store, so we'll see what happens. But hopefully, we do have combats that do challenge us and really like show the fact that we are a very single-sided party. I think
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Are
How
you?
do we solve a problem we're
What
not
level are you
set
guys
up to
starting
solve?
at?
Ted, you're in chat. You know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
I
beauty
think,
of wizards is you can start at level 2 and everyone has their thing.
yeah, I think we're starting at level 3. I know we're starting above level 2, so we all had our thing. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm just gonna wait for Ted to confirm that.
And what is your one punch character?
That is a Tobaxi druid. And that one's the I always forget what it's called. See, again, I'm terrible with these things. It's the mushroom one, the one that like
Oh,
brings things back
spores.
to
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I do like
Circle of
that one.
Spores. Yeah, I've already used it to resurrect my companion's horse when he willingly killed it so that he could use goblin zombies or kobold zombies as a mount. Um, and when that went terribly wrong, I was like, "Hey, your horse is alive again. Here you go."
Did you
Uh,
bring it? Did you bring it back as a zombie?
yeah, it did. Well, yeah, I popped it with my spores. It came back as a zombie with 1 hit point. So,
Yeah, I don't know. It makes me think. Yeah, it makes me think of infected Terrans from StarCraft for some reason.
oh yeah. So I was watching Markiplier do a game playthrough of a game called Darkwood,
Uh,
which is like it's an overtop like overhead horror game. So it reminds me of the original Fallout games in the way that it looks, but also it's terrifying. even though it's low graphics, it's really freaking creepy. But there's a whole lot of like tree growth and mushroom spores, and like the concept is essentially like nature has taken back the world and
Yeah.
you're surviving in this. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna like really draw from that inspiration when making my cat. I really appreciate the cat pun in chat there. Thank you. My character's name is Bartholomew. So leaning into the fact that he's a tabaxi and making those puns is something that I've been trying to do.
Why would you not? If you're gonna be
Oh,
a
sure.
cap, if you're going Nico, why not?
Yeah. So that party is me, the tabaxi, way of the or spore circle druid. We have a death domain cleric. Um,
Oh man,
I
20th level
don't know what
druids
race
are
he is.
just crazy.
Mhm. And then we have a 20th level barbarian. Yeah, so we've got, and that's a berserker barbarian. That's a three-party crew, but you don't need more than that at 20th level.
Yeah. You just wild shape all the time when you're a 20th level druid?
Yes, yes, you can. I had to think about that. I didn't couldn't remember. Although I do have to use my wild shapes for a different spell that I do, or a
For you,
different class ability.
yeah, for the yeah.
I'll be honest, man. I don't know what half of the things I do. Making a
It's
complete
hard.
level 20 character and not having played up to that level, I'm like, I have no clue what this character can do. I bring things back with mushrooms. I'm just gonna do that whenever I can.
Oh, you don't need, and you could also you don't need verbal and somatic components for your druid spells.
Oh, so I could cast in druid form, or in beast form or animal form.
Yeah.
Um, I was watching a video about that. I think it was the Dungeon Dudes talking about commonly misused spell classes, and one of them is the idea that like when you're a druid, you can't cast while in wild form. But they kept saying like until you hit this such and such level, and then everything we say doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, well, 20th you can kind of do it, but there's restrictions. Uh and then at 20th level they're just like, "Man, as long as the components don't cost anything, it's just cast away."
Mhm. I have
Mhm.
yet to turn into anything. I'm already a cat. I don't really need to be any other type of animal.
Yeah, maybe it's Circle of the Moon that you get unlimited.
I
That's
think
not it either. I thought there was some point that you just didn't need you could just like forever wild shape.
now I want to pull up D&D Beyond because I'm sure I read something like that too.
Yeah,
Um,
but
I had
maybe
something
not.
else to say about that game too, and now I forget it.
I sidetracked you with all the druid discussion. Oh, it is
No
the first
worries.
Arch Druid 20th level. Use your wild shape unlimited number of times, which is great for
Perfect.
your spore character because like your spore abilities are also. Oh my god, you know how sick that is. I mean, obviously this is going to happen most of the time, but you can actually wild shape into something and use your spore abilities all the time
Oh man.
and cast your spells.
Oh, now I wish I didn't set my character to have like pretty decent physical stats.
Yeah, they're useless. Totally useless.
Yeah. I've got a 16 con and a 16 dex because when I built this character, I was like, I'm never going to wild shape. I don't need to.
Yeah,
But I could have dumped strength, dex, and con and just been a bear the whole time or something like that.
yeah, pretty much. You still can. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
There was actually a question that I saw that I kind of meant to get back to.
Have you
Somebody
ever played
asked.
Calamar? Is that the one?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm aware of it, but I have not actually played it. That was a third
I'm
edition setting.
not even aware of it. No, I've never heard of that before.
There are so many box sets and settings in third edition. Um, and a lot of that stuff is, I mean, 5e is so easy to kind of convert stuff to. So, like, if you wanted to pull like those old settings, I feel like 5e is fairly easy to kind of get those feels. I mean, aside from like Dark Sun was kind of is a hard conversion.
Yeah, I tried. I tried doing a conversion with Dark Sun early on when I first started playing fifth edition D&D. And you're right, it's hard when you have spells that allow you to make food and water.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to play in a setting where resources are scarce.
You would have to go with the gritty rules.
Mhm. It would be that, or it would be don't allow spellcasters. One of those two options. And I don't love the don't allow something because it
Yeah.
breaks the setting. I don't love that as a rule as a DM, so I would rather do
So
gritty rules.
the I guess if you go with the gritty option in DMG, it's like a long rest takes a week.
Hmm.
So like, sure, you have your spells and you could do that, but you'd only have them so much. And then also you'd have to come up with a rule for the rules for preserver magic and defiling magic, which is a
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah, those are fun. The hard thing for me, even when you do like the you just said it, and then it left
The
my mind.
optional rules, the gritty rules,
Yeah,
yeah,
the gritty
it's
rules.
it's really unbalanced for certain classes.
Well, and what's really tough is you as a GM have to have pressing enough matters available, like in front of your party, that they don't just go, yeah, no, I'm gonna go rest for a week. I'll get into a combat. No, I'm gonna go rest for a week. It's like, okay, but the world has to change and be threatening enough
Yeah,
to remove that option of, resting for a week is a big deal. It takes a lot of time and effort. Like, and that's where I think the gritty rules in Dark Sun would be great because you can make the world dangerous enough that like you don't find a town for several weeks.
yeah.
So
You,
when you do
you
come
don't want
across
to
one,
hang out
yeah,
in the week just in the desert of Dark Sun. You're
yeah,
gonna get eaten by a psychic plant. So
definitely. I mean, hard rules as a GM if I was running that is you can't rest for a week in the desert, man. It's not possible.
yeah, especially if you need to like an uninterrupted week. Like
Yeah,
you're getting interrupted. It's Dark Sun. Everything hates you once you're dead.
right. You think about the concern of resting, doing a short rest for an hour in a dungeon and getting interrupted. Like
Yeah.
that's nothing compared to resting for a week in the desert of Dark Sun.
But then like the rogue becomes the ultimate class.
Hmm.
Because like it's not hampered at all.
Yeah. Well, even the battle master, not the battle master, the fighter that does like
Champion.
yeah, that one.
Well,
It's
your
like
base abilities are short rest abilities, so that would like take 8 hours to get those back.
that's true.
So I don't
Yeah.
think no one benefits the same way as the rogue. Everybody else gets a different level of kind of screwed.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain to think of a single ability that rogues have that require
Yeah.
rests. Base rogues, I don't know. Yeah, like the assassin, man, that you can just assassin all day long and you never have to worry about need rest.
Yeah, like there might be some subclass abilities, but not that many. And like the core rogue is so good anyway. It's like you're not even losing that much.
Right. Shout out to Michael Wheeler. He is the DM for the stream of many things. I keep trying to call it the stream of many,
Yeah,
which is one of the people we're collaborating with on our Monday game.
nice for the one punch.
Yeah, for the One Punch campaign. Sorry, I can't actually write anything in the
Chat.
YouTube chat because I logged myself out and forgot my password.
Feel your pain. We
And
can't get into I can't get into our Twitch channel
yeah,
because it's double authenticated, and Nate did it. So I have to get a hold of Nate and then do it and figure out how to use like one of the third party authentication things. It's a hassle,
yeah,
and I hate hassles.
right. That's kind of what
So
we were
it's
talking about
like,
before the stream with the things that I haven't done for the channel because it's a hassle.
yeah, it
Uh,
is. It is. I mean, there's so much to do in addition to just doing the thing. It's not like you can just make videos or just do the stream. There's always all these other jobs that go along with it.
yep.
So
So I've got a question because we were talking about spells and it got me thinking about something that I recently watched. And I'm curious to see how what you think of this and how you would handle it in a game if you allowed it. So if you're ready, I'll shoot this question at you.
shoot.
So I was watching a video, and now I don't remember what the YouTube channel was, but he touched on the concept of spell casting and how he removes spell slots, but creates a skill check for casting spells And if you roll low enough on that skill check, it can have catastrophic backfires. So, like, I think the example he used is like casting lightning bolt
Uh,
and then having that jolt out and hit like multiple party members when you roll low enough on the skill challenge. And so I think if I need to clarify this a little more, from my understanding, there is no limitation to the number of times you can cast like a ninth level spell. It's just the DM has these hard and fast consequences
uh.
when you roll that skill check before you even cast the spell. Uh, what do you think about that, man?
I mean, it can be intriguing based on the world, but at the same time, becomes super strong. And then you have to think about things like, you know, obviously, if I'm a caster and every time I um, cast a spell, I got to make an arcane check. Well, then I'm probably going to want the skilled feat so that I am have expertise in it. And like, then like, what other things are players going to try and milk to get a bonus to that check so that they can keep, busting out these spells? And I imagine the way I would do something like that, it would have to be tiered. Like it would be a DC based off of the spell level, right? And the question: does it count for cantrips, or are they freebies? And then you have to think about it like, do you make it really hard in the beginning and then it kind of gets easier? Like 15 plus spell level, it is kind of the DC, but that would be a 24. But by the time you can cast ninth level spells, you're looking at a 6, a 12 plus 17. So on like a 8 or better, is it even an 8 or better? Do I math? Because you could get, let's see, 12, 5, 17. So yeah, like a 7 or better, I think. And you can cast ninth level spells pretty much at will. Um, which obviously even the lower level spells, it's like there is no chance of failure unless you're doing something like a 1
Mm.
is always a failure. But I do kind of like the idea of like failure at a call, or failure, maybe yeah, failure that's just a failure that has a consequence, and then success with a consequence, and just success. um I would kind of dig something like that. And maybe like, especially when you get into those areas where you have the consequences, whether it's a success or failure, that maybe you could like tailor it to the particular character. Like, oh, like I get my spell off, but I take the damage, or oh, I get my spell off, but my party members, get a backlash. Maybe there could be like these interesting things that happen, in addition to, um, just a success or failure, where it's like customized to that particular character.
Yeah, I would like that better. That sounds pretty cool. Um, one of the games I've been playing at home with no stream affiliation at all is Dungeon World, and I got a group of friends together. We're playing that, and the way they approach skill checks and spells is quite a bit different. And everything you do exists on a success to a success with a cost to a fail matrix. And I do like that idea that the failures are more personal to the character, especially if it's magic. Um,
Yeah,
and and interesting. Like, I like the idea that failure isn't just bloop, it doesn't happen. It might be, yeah, you get that fireball off, but that fireball is 4 times larger than you expected. Or like, yeah, you hit somebody with Geas or Geist or however you say that spell, but it also backfires, and now you're compelled to do something they want you to do. And it seems more compelling when you can draw a narrative from that. And I think that's what I liked about the idea of the spell casting system this guy was talking about, is like there's a lot of cool, interesting implications that you as the dungeon master can make to drive the plot forward. But on the downside, you're also putting that in the player's hands and saying, yeah, every single spell you cast, it can have huge world implications that I now have to like figure out.
Yeah. So also, I think like so. I guess the way to do it and make it kind of work is 5e really says like 6th level and above is special when it comes to magic.
Hmm.
Like they've clearly drawn that line. So maybe you tier it where it's like 1 through 5. It's like the DC, the base DC is this. Once you cross the tier, it jumps, right? Instead of being a base of 15, it's a base of 20 because
Hmm.
you're not meant to get that off all the time. And you know, Powered by Apocalypse, that's what kind of inspired my
Yep.
response. Is like I do like the idea that you can still pass the check and have bad things happen. Um,
Yep.
and Star Wars with the narrative dice and Genesis with the narrative dice are like that as well, right? Where you can you can pass and have consequences, or you could fail and still have good stuff happening as well. So
Yeah.
those kind of elements can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Shout out to Billy, Banka Billy. He is one of the uh, other people we're collabing with. Table Troop. Yeah.
And
Got the name for a second.
as always, folks, there will be links in the description so you can go track Asa down as well as
Yep.
Table Troop and haunt their streams.
Yeah. Crit Academy said it. He's a huge fan of Success at a Cost. I love Success at a Cost as well. Um, I like yes ands, yes buts. Just as a DM, I don't like just saying no. It's too boring. It's too generic.
Yeah, like that. Also, too, it's like it just takes a story in new and fun directions. And here's the thing, right? I feel like as gamers, we like to roll dice. So I like giving my players more opportunities to roll dice. But if I ask you to roll a die, there's got to be consequence, right? Like I never ask for the roll if nothing's going to happen, with that roll. So I think that's like super important as well. As well.
Yeah. I agree with you, and that's why like I kick myself when I find myself asking for a role without something in mind.
Yeah. It can be tough. Like so like that happened when we were playing this weekend. I kind of talked about it a little bit in the game, but like one of the characters could read like this magical text, but had no real understanding of magic or arcane, and the other one had a lot of understanding of the arcane, but couldn't read the text. So they're
Hmm.
like, "What if they transcribe it for me?" And I make an Arcana check at disadvantage. I'm like, yeah, you can. Let's do that. And then Ted proceeded to with disadvantage roll 220s.
Oh man. I
So
actually I like that concept. That setup has got like my brain going, and I'm thinking of like all these things that I would do in that situation. But go ahead.
so I'm like, well, something's got to happen. He just rolled 220s,
Hmm.
and something good and bad. Like so, I gave them more information than I might have otherwise, but at the same time, I also had the player transcribing make a saving throw, which they did not pass, which caused some psychic damage. And then we
What's
had a demon begin to extract itself from the book.
Oh no. What spell were they trying to transcribe?
It wasn't a spell. It was
Oh.
more like they were trying to figure out a ritual that had taken place.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it was more like a plot thing than anything.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
just thinking, like, man, if you have someone who doesn't know what they're doing, looking at a magical scroll or text and trying to read it, like, what
yeah,
a wonderful opportunity for them to accidentally cast a spell.
yeah. So the spell involved conjuration and soul transference.
So they kind of did.
Yeah.
Uh,
So with
um,
that, type 4 demon came a knocking.
uh,
So what are you guys going to do after you wrap up your campaign? 20 levels.
Oh my gosh,
Go
that
to
is a
Disney
good
World.
question. I do not know. I've been kicking it around.
Yeah.
So on the 2nd and the 9th of February, I'm gonna run a fan game. Uh, in our normal slot, set in the same world. And I want to keep everything that we do on the stream in this world because we put a lot of time into building it.
What's the name of the world?
Voloheen.
What is it?
Voloheen? I'll
Voloheen.
yeah.
And so, what's special about Voloheen? That's not just your version of uh
Forgotten Realms.
from yeah, Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth.
Man, I'm so glad you asked this question. So major like thing going on is like it's equivalent to World War One. That is it's the major like event happening in the world. Um, I don't think we set out and created the thing that differentiates this from every other fantasy world, which looking back disappoints me because I think that's super important. But we do have a lot of political intrigue happening. Like we have organizations. There's an organization that's meant to be like your DMV style bogged down bureaucracy, but their job is to regulate magic in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and so like when we're talking about how spells above sixth level are supposed to be like special and important and powerful. Well, that's one of the jobs of this organization is to withhold magic above sixth level from practitioners across all nations. So they're supposed to be like a non-affiliated governing body. They're called the International Spellcasting Bureau, the ISCB,
Nice.
and uh, and so like think like Warehouse 13 and I don't know what like because they do a whole lot of just taking magical objects and like hiding them away,
Mm.
and then like also the DMV like or like CPS where you just have a mage show up being like, so we see that you've been accessing this spell, so now we've got to like deal with this in the right legal way. But sometimes
We
they
got to
are
get you registered.
yeah, but sometimes they're way overtaxed. Sometimes they're approaching a problem, and by the time they get there, like it's already gone off the rails. Um, there is the two major nation factions that are in war now, full on war, is a dwarven empire and a collection of city states that is its own kingdom. Uh, they're fighting over like resource distribution, and the dwarven empire is run by a cabal of vampires, which uh kind of are envision them as being very benevolent and very thoughtful and kind, but the nation itself is structured on like on the understanding of your place in society. So like military service is mandatory, resources are managed and given out from the top down, and you have these immortal beings that ideally want what's best for the nation above the individual.
So, communist vampire cabal. Gotcha.
Exactly. I described them initially as a functioning communist society. And the free nations is or free kingdoms or whatever, they're like America and the concept of like we are a collection of people who come together under one banner, but we have vastly differing ideals and political agendas and religions, but we feel that it is our duty to be able to freely explore these things as we want. And a lot of that nation's in a lot of chaos. Their city states fight each other over squabbles constantly, and it comes down to they have like a governing body which is made up of Azamar, but it's like they kind of pay attention to what's happening in their portion of the kingdom and then let
Huh.
everyone else do their own thing. So there had to be like this come together moment of like, oh, the dwarves are actively taking our territory. Like
Yeah.
we have to come together and do something.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I guess the big world difference is there were two races, the Azamar and the Tiefling. those created by Divine and those created by Infernal, and those were the two main races of the world, and every other race is a descendant of those. Um, and there was a major war early on between the two of those, and the winners, the Azamar, were able to set up their own world, kingdom, and society. The losers, the Tiefling, were sort of shunned and treated terribly, and like enslaved and bad, just bad, terrible things. And so we're thousands of years removed from that, with people acting on old prejudices without fully understanding why. And we're having to sort of deal with some of that as well. But a lot of it's political, which is funny because a lot of my players don't care for the political part of the game.
Well, I guess when they're DMing, they can do something different.
Oh, and they do. Like, we've drawn in gods and all kinds of wild stuff. One of our players has legitimately cut off the head of a god and has it in a bag that she carries with her. That was fun.
Does it still talk?
Uh I would like it to at some point, and it will when I DM. Yes, I'm very much inspired by the concept of like Medusa's head in the bag during Perseus's story, right?
Yeah, Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm really inspired by that and want to keep using it, but yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, my in my one game they've got a animated drow head. They've been
Mhm.
lugging around with them.
Oh man, talking heads. I did a full on Dresden ripoff and had a talking skull in one of my games.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with animated heads. Butcher didn't exactly invent the animated head, so
It's true. Yeah.
Reanimator, like there it goes back. I think the trope goes back quite a ways, and it is kind of fun. Uh, they had, I think, like they had killed they had killed like a drow, and then his brother recovered the body, and then showed up looking for revenge, and also had the animated head with them of the one that they killed originally, which we haven't really delved into why they have the animated head of the original and done anything with it. So we'll see. Maybe it'll come up later. And they haven't really asked either. Like, they like keeping him and talking to him and trying to get answers out of him, but the one answer they have not looked for is like, why are you an animated head?
Right. Why are you still alive? Sometimes those questions really matter.
Yeah.
Especially when, as a DM, you're like, I got this little thing in my pocket, and I'm just waiting for the moment to make it come back and bite them in the ass because they didn't ask this one question.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there will be another meta plot running through there with that at some point. But right now they
Yeah.
have enough on their plate. They
Um, Brian had a question that went back to the pushing spells thing. Talking about how would you balance a fighter? How would you make them feel powerful too?
Yeah, that is kind of tough because they have things that they can kind of do a lot of times. I do like his suggestion though. It's like, well, maybe you pick one of their like key features, like action surge, and
Mm,
let them make an athletics check to kind of push themselves and do it again, and with the same results. Like, you could have a consequence without a failure with consequence, just a failure.
mm.
You might succeed, but you have some kind of consequence, or you just get to do it again. You know, I guess all the classes you could kind of look through and kind of figure that out with. If you wanted to do that, barbarian rages, you could do the same thing with. Now rogues, screw you, rogue. You're already too good.
You don't need any help.
You don't need any help,
Uh,
and none of your stuff has any kind of cooldowns or anything. It's all action based,
yeah, so
so you
we're
just
not
kind of
giving
always
Rogue
do
any
it.
love,
No, they don't deserve it. They've gotten too much love from this game as it is.
right? I mean, just on a side question, we don't even need to go into that, but just throw it out there to chat and let you guys be where I'm at. I wonder why that is. I wonder why rogues get all of the love, um, but the answer doesn't really matter that much to me.
So on that note, we are up on the hour. Final thoughts before we head out?
Uh, this has been a great, fun conversation. I don't think it was anything like our last one. Um, but yeah, just check out, man. I got a lot of games coming on. I'm really excited for them. Um, check out Roll for Mischief. The best place to jump in on our channel will be on February 2nd. Um, be there for the game that is run by Ted. Be there for the Chaos Crew doing our Wizard campaign. That'll start on the 29th of this month. And then every other week, every other Monday, with Table Troop, we are running our One Punch campaign, level 20 characters, just blasting our way through Horde of the Dragon Queen. It is going to be a lot of fun. I hope to
Awesome.
see you there somewhere at some point.
Awesome. Links are in the description below. Until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.